All right, Gulf Coast 70.3. This was my first flat Ironman branded 70.3 that I've ever done. I've done some flat races that were non Ironman branded, but I've never done a flat one before. And I have to say, it was fun to go fast, but I still prefer hilly, hard, technical courses. Definitely more of my strength. How about you?
Um, I think I'm in the same boat. I can't really recall, but I'm pretty sure it was the first flood one as well.
No.
Yeah. Well, that was the bridge. Yeah. So that was the Mount Everest of Panama City Beach.
Yeah, it was so nice
Yeah.
that I was looking forward to that
Yeah.
bridge.
The views were amazing.
Yeah. So let's talk about maybe just the days going into the race. We had just done the off road race in Charlotte the weekend before. I know for myself personally, I felt pretty horrible going into this race on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We drove on Wednesday, but I felt pretty blah on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Um, I actually felt good on Sunday, but then on Monday and Tuesday, I was pretty tired. And I just did not have much energy in me. So we got to the race venue and we arrived on Wednesday, my first focus was to just shake out the funk of the travel. And I knew that a outdoor swim would do that for me. So I started to feel much better on Wednesday. And then on Thursday. So thankfully it all came around and I actually felt pretty good going into the race. I did get my period the day after the race, so that kind of explains why I felt flat kind of all week. And then during the race, didn't feel like I had that extra gear. But I definitely felt much more, I felt like my body was ready to race on Thursday and Friday. How did you feel going into the race?
Well, I didn't get my period, but I also felt flat and not so much flat. I was sore from the off-road triathlon because doing these off-road races, it's a full body work and like doing hard mountain bike ride, in the difficult terrain, requires a lot of strength and again full body. So as you are dealing with the typical post-race soreness, you're also discovering new spots that are, achy, some niggles here and there. So yeah, that was kind of eventful few days, and similar to you, like Wednesday, even for me going into Thursday of the race week, I could still feel some niggles and stuff like that, but that didn't really let me think twice about it. Just kind of you just do what you have to do on the race day and see what happens.
Yeah. And can you just also mention that you've been dealing with a lot of niggles lately? You know that you have chronic back issues with some disc issues and a labral tear and
Yeah.
things like that. I know you don't make excuses about it. But I think one thing that I really appreciate with you is that you don't freak out about it. You don't do anything extreme or drastic, like trying to a quick fix just because a race is coming up. I even mentioned to you that I feel bad that you can't, because you were having some issues with your knee and your foot and your
Mhm.
ankle. And I was just like, I feel bad for you. And you're just like, don't worry about me. I'll be fine.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a, it's kind of like unfortunate part of aging up and having these ongoing niggles from maybe some previous falls on the bike when I was racing bikes and some just overuse basically. And so yeah, I don't freak out about it. I definitely don't seek any kind of treatment such as like injections, or I don't even like to take any sort of pain medication, just to mask the pain. I just try to focus on what can I do to kind of make it better. Is it a specific movements, mobility, strength work, body work, massage? Is it trigger point? Whatever it is to kind of like help out in this sense, but not to just go too aggressive on it at the same time, because then you may feel a certain niggle and you start beating everything up around that area, or on that, and you can create some new niggles. So just kind of like do things that may help, but don't be too aggressive and just don't be too worried about it. And like what helped me, it's also that like I said to you, that I don't have to prove anything here. I've done many successful races, and this is just kind of just another chapter in the racing catalog, and we'll see what happens. So it's not that you are just feeling that pressure, that and that's kind of what athletes sometimes create on themselves, that they feel the pressure of the outside world, that they need to prove something to somebody, to prove their athletic worthiness, thinking that everybody's trucking me in the race. And we always tell, hey, nobody gives a shit. Nobody worries about you. It may feel like that, but it's really not that case. So
No.
yeah, that's kind of how it was for me. And yeah, like you mentioned, I was not really able to do much of running in the recent weeks, but again, just kind of many from my past experiences, I know that a lot of things can just kind of, you don't feel it on the race day just because you have the adrenaline rush of the fact that you are racing and you are focusing on different things. You take your mind out of these niggles, and it just work out. And if not, then you deal with it when it comes.
Yeah, great mindset. The day before the race, we did our workouts, we checked in our bikes, we did our carb loading. We kind of have a good routine, so we don't really have to think twice about anything. I do want to mention that, well, I do want to thank you, but also highlight the fact that we had planned to ride on Friday, the day before the race, because that's what we always do before the race. The big storm blew in overnight, which there was lots of debris. So we were going to wait until it kind of dried out a little bit in the morning time. But then it was going to rain in a little bit. And I wanted to get out on my bike. You know that I enjoy riding my bike, and that makes me feel good before a race. So you told me to go out and ride. Well, I did my workout. It ended up, or my ride, I rode with our friend Alvi. It ended up raining. There was lots of sand and stuff on the ground. And when I got back, you pretty much took apart my entire bike and detailed it and got it ready for the race. So I'm very thankful for that. But I just wanted to mention that, in that, we arrived to these races with bikes that are tuned up and ready to go. And of course, we're all worried about flat tires and things like that. But even just riding with the sand and debris and things can get inside certain parts of the bike, which then can make the bike not work properly or safely. So I just want to mention that even though I did ride the day before the race and it wasn't ideal conditions, I was thankful that Karel made sure that my bike was ready for the race. But it's not something I would encourage athletes to do.
Yeah, sometimes we just have to deviate from our plan, to in order to be in the best case scenario for the actual race when it matters. So like in our case, like I had no issues or no problems of taking the bike apart and cleaning it deeply and making it again race ready. But some athletes may not have this opportunity, so it's better maybe do a run. Like actually I decided, I just don't want to mess with my bike again. So I just did a run and didn't ride a bike at all the day before the race, and that was then another option, because yeah, being at the beach, there was a lot of sand everywhere, and now with the water, it just kind of like was spraying the sand everywhere. So the whole drivetrain, the chain, the pulleys, the rollers, it was just covered with a lot of sand, which basically is kind of like the grinding stuff. So sure, you would be able to go through the race and probably be fine, but it's just kind of like, that's the detail, right? That's the thing that what we always try to do, to have the bikes in the best possible condition and shape. People spend a lot of money for ceramic bearings and these upgrades and wax chains and all that, and then the day before the race they cover it with sand. So just have to kind of weigh the cons and pros of do I really need this one last shakeout ride?
Yeah. So race morning, we woke up at 3:15.
Jeez. Don't even mention that.
For the 5:40 a.m. start.
That was stupid. Like, who came up with that? You know what? It's a good idea to start at 5:40.
Well, it is a beach town, and got off the roads quick. And it was nice to be done by 11 a.m. So that was
it was nice.
It was nice, and the sun comes up early there, so it was an early morning. And I slept okay. I had some things on my mind with Campy's health. He's doing fine, but I was just a little bit worried after hearing from our pet sitter about some things. So he's okay, but it caused me to just toss and turn throughout the night. But anyways, in the morning, had my normal bagel with peanut butter, some syrup, some yogurt. And then for nutrition for the bike, I had 3 bottles, each with about 90 grams of carbs from Infinite High Fructose. I had 2 grape flavor and 1 fruit punch. And then also, in case I dropped a bottle, I had some Power Bar Chews and a Never Second gel in my little bento box on my bike, just in case. So that was my setup for the bike. And then for the run, I had 2 flasks, 10-ounce flasks, each with 1 scoop Never Second in each of those flasks. It's something I do in training, even though I use a variety of nutrition products for my training. It's something that has never failed me for my long workouts, and I have good experience. So that's what I did for race day.
Yeah, my breakfast was oatmeal because that's what I do every single morning, except when we travel to Europe, and then I have a lot of pastries there and a lot of good stuff what they have there to offer. But other than that, I always have oatmeal, so I just have oatmeal and
Your
it worked for
coffee.
me, and a coffee, of course. I brought the AeroPress this time with me, and I grind our own coffee that we have, so it was good. And
What
yeah,
was your bike nutrition?
bike nutrition. I have 2 bottles of Morten 320. Don't mistake it with Mortal. It's not a Molder nutrition. It was Morten 320. And so I prepared 2 bottles. And I also put Osmo in the aero bottle on the frame on the bike.
The hydration?
Hydration, yeah, which I didn't ended up using. And even from those 2 bottles on the bike of the Morten, I only consume a bottle and 3/4, and I felt very satisfied.
Yeah. Did you have any other bars, gels?
No, no gels, no bars, no nothing. So basically, the whole bike was fueled by those 2 bottles, which I didn't end up finishing all. And then on the run, I had a flask or 400 ml small bottle with Osmo hydration, and that was it.
3 scoops.
3 scoops. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
don't.
not many calories, but I felt so, and I did have a gel on the bike, like just in case I would need it, and I was planning to grab the gels on the aid station on the run because knew that they would have stuff that works for me, but I just didn't need it, so I felt pretty good.
No. I use 3 bottles instead of using the Aero bottle on the frame, just because I have a really hard time grabbing that bottle and putting it back in. So we just decided, for me, it's just better off for me to have 2 rear bottles and 1 between the Aero bars, and then I can just rotate my bottle. So it works out great.
Yeah, and we still kept that Aero bottle in the frame for the Aero benefits, but your functional bottles were the one in the front that's your primary bottle that you drink, and the 2 in the back, it's just a storage.
Yeah. So now on to the swim. So first of all, we set up our transition area. Interesting thing is that usually with races, they tell you the water temperature, if it's wetsuit legal or not, right? Over and over and over again when you're in transition area. And we didn't hear anything until about 30 minutes before the race. So that was
less than 30 minutes.
Yeah. So that was kind of odd and a little bit stressful. Like, what's happening? Karel, you mentioned that you kind of prepared yourself that they may cancel the swim.
I was like, okay, the swim is not happening. Otherwise, they would tell us the temperature. So that's probably, they just kind of try to figure out, how to present this information. So I was just kind of like, yeah, it is what it is. Like, whether it's like a positive or negative information, it is what it is. And you just go along with it.
Yeah. So, but later it was announced that it was not wetsuit legal. It was somewhere between 78 and 80 degrees. And they reversed the course so that we would start out with the current, less chop. So the swim, I was a little bit nervous for the swim just because of the jellyfish and my reaction to insects and stings. And I just was nervous for something that was out of my control. But I knew that once I got into the water, I would be okay. I did end up getting a little sting on my arm, but it was just more of like a little vibration. So I was very thankful that nothing serious happened. I've been struggling with anxiety in open water since Icon and getting hypothermia in that race, and swimming in the dark. So whenever I have been swimming in open water, I just remind myself, you're not in the dark. You can see where you're going. The water is comfortable. So I have to kind of do these things to calm me down. But once I started swimming, I was so happy to be in the ocean. I forgot how much I enjoy it. It's been so long, probably since Kona, since I swam in the ocean, and I love swimming in Kona. So I just really enjoyed it. My swim was not great. It was a slow swim, but then again, I don't think that I really was putting out an effort that would allow me to go faster. I felt like I stayed on the course. I did a good job siding on the buoys. I felt good in the water, but again, I just felt kind of flat all day. So I just don't feel like I really gave an effort that would allow me to go any faster. So I can't really be disappointed in that time. I just felt good. I felt like I should have been able to do another loop. So once again, it just kind of confirms that it's 70.3 distance is not a specialty distance of mine. I'm much more suited for the Ironman distance, and it's really hard for me to not go my Ironman effort in 70.3. So I think that's just what I was feeling out on the race day. But I really did enjoy the swim, and I was happy swimming. And when I got on the transition, I tried to move as quick as I could through the sand, which was a little bit hard, just ran through the little showers to spray myself off. I've really worked on my transitions over the years, and I think off-road racing has helped me with this. And I am super quick at putting on my compression socks on my feet. And I did struggle a little bit with my Bont shoes in that I wanted to tighten them on while I was going on the bike. And I really fumbled with them. So I should have just saved the time and just tighten them in transition, get it done with, or wear another pair of shoes that I have. So I might adjust that in future races. How'd you feel in the swim?
Well, I was actually excited about the swim. I was happy that they didn't cancel it, and I kind of was hoping for a little bit of the roughness in the water, just because it's kind of like you can fake it and muscle it through. And I practiced the days before when it was really rough to kind of like get into the water through
And you did great.
past the breakers and all that. So I was excited about the swim. The swim didn't ended up being good for me. It was actually my kind of probably worst swim I've done since I started triathlons, but I cannot really pinpoint why. I tried to stay on course. I thought I was swimming well. It just ended up not being good. And I'm not just talking about only the time, because everybody had a slower times. It was just I was just way off in the placing, in the relation to, for example, where you swam, where some other people that I know swam. It was just off, and like I said, I don't really know why. It's just it happened, done and dusted. Let's move on.
No.
Yeah, the transition, I always try to make it fast, but somehow you ended up beating me in transitions. I really don't know how, because I kind of sprinted it, and
I can share my
try
tricks with you.
to make everything like make up the time. And I always like the long transitions, which this one was long because you can make up some time. But yeah, you beat me again by 2 seconds or 3 seconds. It is what it is.
You did put on your compression socks, and you're not used to
compression socks, just the aero socks.
Aero socks, and you're not used to that.
Yeah, I usually don't do that.
That probably cost you 3 seconds.
Yeah, and then it saved me some time coming back off the bike. So,
yeah. So now onto the bike. So I was very excited about the bike. I wasn't feeling so good in the workouts leading up to this race. But I was really excited to ride my tri bike. I don't spend a lot of time on it. With my gravel bike, my mountain bike, and my road bike, I ride predominantly. I do have a tri bike on the trainer that I ride at least once a week. But I just was really excited just to go fast. And that's something that we don't get to do very much where we live because of all the hills. Mentally, I broke the course down into segments. So I knew how many miles each segment was. I lapped my computer, and I just focused on going as fast as I could with, a strong, sustainable effort. Again, I felt pretty flat in that I just felt comfortable. And I found myself passing all the females who were ahead of me in the swim. And then by the turnaround, which was about a little over 20 miles, I was then the lead female. I saw one of my friends, Jen, who was in our age group on the other side. So I knew she was also riding very strong. So after mile 20, I was leading the race. I kind of made a mistake in that the guys that I was riding with, I probably got too complacent and that I was staying draft legal behind them. But I think that the guys that I was riding with were probably slowing me down because I was just keeping up with their effort. And in hindsight, I probably should have tried to hang on to another group of guys, kind of gone that next gear. The bike kind of felt easy for me. Of course, I was still working, but in looking back at other races, like I remember 70.3 Chattanooga, where I was really working to stay draft legal behind certain guys. And I know what that effort felt like. And I felt like I didn't really have that at this race. I did start to push in the last 12 miles on Front Beach Road just because the guy that I was with was starting to slow down. And I was like, okay, I need to just go. Now, I say draft legal because you're not allowed to draft, but you can be within 12 meters. And you better believe I was within 12 meters because I had a ref around me, as I do in almost every race as the lead swim biker, that I'm usually with the refs. And I did not want to get a penalty. And she and the motorcycle were around me the whole time on the highway, so for all 28 miles, and no penalty. So I was definitely riding draft legal and probably leaving more than I should have, just because I did not want to take any risks and getting a 5-minute penalty. I enjoyed the course. I really enjoyed it. It was windy going out, headwind, tailwind coming back, and then there was lots of turns in the back half of the course, which was just a lot of fun. It felt very technical and engaged and getting out of the saddle and turning and on this path. And so that made it a lot more fun. And then, of course, the bridge, which was our one hill. I was really looking forward to that, to get up, stretch the hips, get out the saddle. But I finished the bike. I finished the bike feeling a little tired. It wasn't like I felt fresh getting off the bike, but I definitely felt like, okay, I rode well, but I didn't feel like I really rode hard. So that was my bike. I didn't drink all of my nutrition. I just didn't feel like I needed everything. It wasn't super hot. I didn't feel like I needed water from the aid stations. So I ended up drinking probably about 2 bottles. So a little bit more than you did. I ended up drinking all of my bottles, but when I rotated my bottles, when there was an opportunity that I felt I wanted to rotate my bottles, I still had a little something left in the bottles. So I would say that all the bottles had a little something left in them, with one of the bottles having about half in it. So that was my bike.
Yeah, I was happy with the bike, and again, it was the first time we really did something like this completely flat. And but this course wasn't boring. This course was good to break down into these segments, knowing like, okay, this is the part on the beach, and we turn on this main road, and we will be going against the wind till the turnaround, which was on mile 21. Then we turn around, we should get some help with the wind, and then playing on the beach again. So it was just it went by really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the typical like, we still have how many more miles left. It was it just went by pretty quickly. And on the way out to the turnaround, I was basically just I was happy that I felt pretty good, and I was pushing, and I was just constantly passing people. And as I was getting towards the front, it was getting more lonely there. At first you are passing a lot of people that are kind of more close together, and then it was just like a one at a time, longer gaps, and then it was even longer. And then after the turnaround, as we were heading back right before the bridge, there was another guy. He went by me and passed me, so it was the first time that somebody else passed me. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I slotted behind, again, staying draft legal, just kind of wanted to feel it out. And I realized like, wow, my watts just dropped like 50 watts down. And I'm like actually leaving more space than the 12 meters. And it feels so much easier, but then you have to keep asking yourself questions. So, okay, the person who passed you, they might have just put a surge, and are they still going faster than what you were doing before? So we start kind of trading the pool. So I would get ahead of him, and then in a while he would pass me again. So it was just kind of like, it was good going, because you never want to settle for somebody else's pace and put your destiny in their hands. You always want to ask these questions like, can I go faster? What, at what cost? Um, and the second half of the bike, I start getting some signs of I may possibly get some cramp, and I'm prone to cramps ever since I was a kid, so I'm very familiar with it. And when it happens, there's not much you can do. And at this point, it's not that I was just overdoing it; it's just it just happens. And
this
I
was in your inner thighs.
Yeah, there was inner thighs and in my groin, kind of getting that sensation there, and it's probably coming from my bad hips. And so I have to back off in the back end of the bike, which is a little bit frustrating because I really felt good. I was nose breathing pretty much, but it was needed, So maybe I could go 2 minutes faster, but at the end it would not make any difference anyway. And I finished the bike. The last few miles I was just kind of like, okay, let's just get it over with. I'm kind of ready to hop off this bike, because the beach road was really busy. It was a lot of cars, and one time we get really tight with another truck around the roundabout, and then the truck turned into the parking lot right in front of me, and it was just kind of like pretty busy. And I was like, let's just finish it safe and get on to the run.
Yeah. And like you said, I didn't find this bike course boring at all. And I really don't find, I mean, of course, hills make things more dynamic and fun. But when I race, I am just so focused on the athletes around me. I'm trying to judge my effort with their effort. I'm thinking about my pedal stroke, my nutrition, my posture. I'm just focusing on so much. And we often say, like, especially in Ironman racing, it's so mental that you're just thinking and troubleshooting all day. So anytime I would just zone out for a second or just not be paying attention, I would find myself slipping far back, and then I'd have to accelerate to go harder. So just really had to be on all day, which is just a big part of racing. So then I got into the transition area, had a super quick transition because all I needed to do was just put on my running shoes, and I wore the new Saucony. Which ones are they?
The Endorphin Pro 4.
Endorphin Pro, have my little lace locks on there. So just pull them down, tighten up the shoes, and then step into my naked running hydration belt. And then I have everything that I need that I'll put on as I'm running in a Ziploc bag. It's just a clothing bag from Castelli that our kits came in. And so I have my sunglasses, and so I have the flasks on the bottom because they're the last thing that I'll use. And I have my sunglasses in my hat. And so when I pull it out, I take my sunglasses, put them on, put my hat on, then put the flasks in my belt, and then I can discard the bag when I get to an aid station. I actually did the same thing at the off-road race last weekend, and I ended up holding the bag the whole time just because I really liked how it was helping my running form.
No aid station.
Huh?
And there were no aid stations.
And there was no aid station, so I couldn't throw it away anyways, but I actually was planning to hold on to it. So I had a super quick transition. We had the exact same transition, so I'm very happy about that. Run over the little bridge. I was the lead female coming off the bike, so I had the bicycle guy, female. There was a guy and a female first and second. So I think it was the female behind me, and got lots of cheers for the first loop. I did not feel good getting off the bike. I had to really quiet my mind, just because running is always kind of what's my body going to give me on race day. I know I can put together a good run. I know I'll run and get to the finish line, but I just never know kind of like, how's my body going to feel, and what am I going to be able to work with on race day? And so first mile just did not feel good. And I was just like, ugh, this doesn't feel good. But then after the first mile, I started to get into a rhythm and started to feel much better. And it's always a cool feeling to be the lead female, get lots of cheers. There was lots of guys passing me, telling me good job. Saw some familiar faces out there and friends and spectators. So I really enjoyed this run course. I love looped courses, and this was even better because there was like little sections within each loop. So it wasn't just out and back. It was like you turn here, you go around here. The longest section was maybe a little more than a mile to a mile and a half. So I really enjoyed this running course. So I was shocked with my running paces because I ended up averaging 7:38, which is just great for me where I am right now with my running, especially training for Norseman and been just focusing on these longer distance events. And I was just shocked to see these paces around 7:30 because I never do that in training. I'm either running faster around 7-minute miles for very short intervals and speed stuff, or I'm running much slower for my easier runs. So to be able to do this, I was just like, wow, this is really amazing. But then on the second loop, I started to just kind of settle. And I think the reason for this was just that wasn't feeling pressure. Even though I was in the lead, I just didn't know who was behind me. I didn't know how fast they were running. And I still felt like I was racing, but I just kind of shut it down one gear. And the lead girl ended up passing me. She was running so fast. I was trying to mimic her running, and she was gone before I knew it. So she passed me on my way back to start the second loop. And then my friend Jen, she passed me around mile 9-ish or 10. And she was like, Marni, stay with me. Come on, you can do it. And she was running so good. I was just looking at her form. I was trying to do what she was doing. And I ended up staying with her for at least a mile or 2 miles. And then she kind of started to stretch the gap, but I was still pushing it. And I would say that this was just my most proud moment of the whole race, was that I was able to find a gear I didn't know I had. And the last 4 miles were my fastest 4 miles in a half marathon and a half Ironman ever in my 18 years of racing. So I'm super pumped with that, and that I just was able to go to another level of my running. And I'm just so happy about that. I didn't care about blowing up. I was just going to give my best effort and just see what happened. I still felt like everything was in control. But I was just really proud of myself, and it was so much fun to be able to dig deep and to feel like I could push. I just wish I was able to do that on the second loop, but now I have more belief in my abilities, and I feel like I can now do that in other runs. But if it wasn't for her and beating me, I wouldn't have gotten that other gear. So sometimes competition can be a really great thing. You don't have to win to have a great performance. I feel like I had a really great performance, and I was 4th overall female and second in my age group by 42 seconds. But I'm really happy that Jen passed me because she got something out of me that I didn't know I had, and felt good crossing the finish line. I felt like I had a really steady race. If it was an Ironman, I probably would have gone just a little bit slower, but I don't think I really had that top end gear that was needed to race at a higher level at the 70.3. So I was happy with what I was able to do on that day. How was your run?
Yeah, my run surprised me in the positive way. And so in the past, the running will be always my thing, where I would move up through the field and felt strong and usually post one of the fastest age group times in the runs. But things have changed, and I haven't really do these type of the runs just because our focus now it's on all kinds of different events. And long gone are the days when we both were like super focused on this half and full Ironman racing and training. So I really didn't know what to expect. And so when I started the run, there were 2 guys who immediately passed me, getting out of the transition, and they were just running too fast. So in the past, I would probably like try to go with it and fight it, but this sounds like I know I don't have that in me just yet. So I just kind of try to find whatever I can do that it's more reasonable. And similar to you, the first few miles just felt hard, felt tough. But then again, looking at the pace, it was like, I'm actually running pretty good. It was like at that point, it was like a 6:39 pace. And I was like, yeah, but I will probably slow down because that's usually what happens. You really rarely or pretty much never negative split a triathlon run in the long distance race. So I was like, okay, let's just use it for now. Like it doesn't feel good, but it doesn't feel too terrible, and maybe I can just kind of like front load some good time, and then if I slow down, it may still be reasonable. But then on the back end of the first loop, I just start feeling like something just start opening up, and I start running faster, and it felt good. And I was like, okay, I'll go with it. And I start seeing that the pace is actually overall pace of the run is getting faster, which which was really kind of like that pleasant and positive feedback that I got from seeing that. And I just felt really good flow. And I've seen paces on the looking at the pace, and I haven't seen those paces for that distance in like 2 years. So it was really fun to run fast again. And I could feel it. I was running through the field, and I would always like either pick somebody that I knew that like, oh, there's one of our athletes, so I'll get to them and say hi. And then then when there was nobody that I could you know talk to like that I know, I would just pick a person who looked pretty good far in the distance and try to like get to that person just to kind of check it off the list. So just have these targets, help me to kind of stay focused. And the run went by so quickly.
So quick. The loops just help so much because there was a time when I got on the run and I was like, oh my gosh, mile 8. But then I was like, no, you just have to run to this point, and then you're in this point, and then you only have to do this. It just went by so fast. Loop courses are so mentally stimulating.
Yeah. And the fact is that the weather conditions were pretty favorable, and when we were on the course running, it was kind of like still kind of cloudy and pretty pleasant, right? It got hotter later on, but luckily for us, we were able to do the run when it wasn't too scorching hot, so that for sure helped. But like I said, I was just happy running fast, and then when I was on the last loop and on that last straightaway, I noticed as I was picking those targets, I was like, holy moly, there's that guy who ran away from me in that opening mile of the run, and now I see him again. So, and he was gone like before. So that was my target, and I speed up even more, and I ended up passing him right before the finish line. Basically, when we were going over the bridge back to the finish line, I passed him, and at first when I got behind him, I was like, okay, so when do I go? When do I make that move? But I was like, screw that, I'll just do it right now, on that uphill, because he started making some noises going uphill. So I just did it, and then he made one more noise, and
like tired noises.
Yeah, tired noise. And I was going. I was happy, and I finished with the time that I'm happy with, 1:24 and change. And like I said, I have not done run like this in probably 2 years, maybe 2 years. Yeah, about 2 years ago, it was in 2022 in Chattanooga, where we raced.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, happy with that, and I won my age group, and I'm no longer shooting for overalls because as I get older, there are a lot of fast young people. So that's done and dusted. But if I can still be competitive in the age group and in the context of our current type of training and events we do, it still feels pretty good.
Yeah. The last thing I just want to mention, Karel and I, we were talking about this after the race, just because you kind of have these mixed emotions about races. Of course you're happy, but then you're also like, what could I have done better? Or why didn't this go as good as it should have gone? And things like that. And so it's always good to, we had a nice 8+ hour drive to talk about it. But one thing that we kind of talked about was, especially for me, like the training that I need to do to keep myself healthy and strong and not get injured, and to be mentally enjoying the sport that I've done for 18 years is very different than the training I think that I need to do, or that I did do, to try to be very competitive. That's doesn't to say that it's not to say that I'm not competitive anymore, but it just looks different. And I'm very happy that it still allows me to be competitive, but I also need to be okay with the fact that it might not always go as it did in Gulf Coast, but that doesn't mean that I can't keep enjoying it and keep doing what I'm doing, because I'm getting so much joy out of the extreme tries and mountain biking and stage races. And that variety is keeping me in the sport and keeping me enjoying the sport. And without that, I would probably be injured or burn out or just really struggling with my why. So that is something that we talked about, just because I think sometimes you can kind of go into a race with a realistic mindset and then finish the race with these almost too high expectations and then be disappointed that you didn't meet those expectations, even though in reality you didn't really train for that. So that was just something that we talked about.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, it's typical that you finish the race and everything, your emotions, everything is based on that last experience, which was that race that you just finished. So if it's a half Ironman, you get upset that maybe I should have done better, more training specific for that. And you finish off-road triathlon, and well, my handling skills on mountain bike are not great, but you just don't put as much time as you should if you want to specialize in that. And then you do the extreme triathlon. So it's always, we made a choice, or at least from my perspective, it's like I have been in the road triathlon for many years, and now I'm super happy with the variety and the other type of the events that we are doing and the options that we have to choose to do on everyday basis. And we never stop training. It's just different, and it's just kind of like, why would I keep doing the same thing that I've done for 12 years if there is something else that brings me joy? And the joy is riding my mountain bike, being on my gravel bike, doing some. This year we'll be doing my first extreme triathlons, and it's just kind of that unknown. I don't know what to expect, and I'm super excited about it. And do I really put myself out there and train like crazy for these events? No, absolutely not. It's just kind of because again, I don't want to specialize and just kind of like only narrow my option to this one type of the racing. I still want to kind of like, I've been there, done a lot of things, and now I just want to enjoy the movement, the experience, and just like see what the body can give me.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our race report from Gulf Coast 70.3. Bye.
Yeah, cheers.